Okay, shut up, you guys. I want to talk about the White Lotus. Season 3. We're dressed in a little tropical and summery today in honor of the White Lotus, even though outside is not sure if it's like spring or winter or summer or what. Is it global warming or is it just Canada? Season 3 of The White Lotus has ended with a bang, and it turns out they were telling the truth. It wasn't the monkeys. So I will not be making my third video on the topic of monkeys, but it's only April, so who knows? If you are not familiar with The White Lotus, the premise is mostly rich people being bad and awkward together at a rich people resort. Everyone's kind of a selfish weirdo, and if they don't seem like a selfish weirdo at first, it's usually because they're a hypocritical selfish weirdo who is very good at hiding behind others being even more selfish and weird. But you might say that that's a very negative way to look at these characters. Personally, I've been striving this year to practice more gratitude and look at things from a more positive perspective, and it's actually been far more successful than my attempts to learn to play the accordion. The bar was not high. So I thought it would be nice in wake of the season ending and us putting away this show for probably another 2.5 years, because that's how we make TV shows now apparently, if I went through all the characters in this eccentric ensemble and determined the best thing about each of them. Not the most intriguing or funniest or captivatingly sinister. I am digging down deep to find something nice to say about these people, like when your coworker wants to know what you think about her new scumbag boyfriend, or when someone in your theater program thinks your class is getting too toxic. So now you have to spend a voice class trying to prove how much you care about each other instead of working on your Welsh accents, and now all the reviews for your production of Under Milkwood are gonna say you sound Swedish. Is that not super relatable? In short, I am going to find the nicest thing about each member of the main cast, as defined by who's on the poster, plus one character I think was just omitted from the poster to prevent spoilers. Let's start with the Ratliff siblings, our own little see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil monkeys. God damn it, Nikki, it's not about the monkeys. Saxon is presented as the ultimate douchebag, caring only about appearances, sex, money, and success, which is interesting because his own professional successes only exist because he works for his daddy's company. So what could be so great about this Nepo baby? It's that he's great at being a Nepo baby. If we have to live in a world where some people are born with the kind of upper hand most of us would kill for just because of who their parents are, we should hope that these people deal with it like Saxon. First of all, he knows who he is and what he is. The worst thing about Nepo babies is their insistence that they don't rely on their family's name, that they work just as hard as everyone else. But Saxon knows trying to deny his advantage will just make him look privileged and dumb. He admits he doesn't have a particularly impressive past or bright future without his father's company or connections. And the actor, Patrick Schwarzenegger, really brings truth to this experience of accepting that he'll always be seen as an extension of his father, for some reason. And to his credit, he does seem like a genuine hard worker. He's giving his all to this company. Not that blind dedication to a corporation is the best quality you can have, but at least he's not the type of manager's son who shows up for free snacks and to hit on the new employee. He'd do that too, but it would be like in between his work duties. He's a multitasker. Now on to Saxon's sister Piper. Piper, no! Apparently, like Welsh and Swedish, if you're bad enough at North Carolinian, you can just become Australian. What could her best quality be? Her altruism, open-mindedness, her ability to sacrifice and stand out from a family that's obsessed with wealth and status? None of these things, because in addition to being judgmental in her own fun Eastern fusion way, in the end she's not as willing to give up the finer things as she once believed. But she does pull one move that does make her unironically better than most of the population. She admits she was wrong. When her mother, Parker Posey, makes a deal with her that she will accept her moving to Thailand if she spends just one night at this center, I thought, that's pretty short-sighted. Because even if Parker Posey is right and the reality of this life makes Piper think twice, what kind of 20-something black sheep is going to admit that after all this talk, a lack of AC and organic cooking is enough to make them give up on their dreams? Piper does. She says, enough is enough, time to let my mom buy me a fancy purse. And that is huge for rich young women who take big swings. You think that would have happened on Girls? No, if Marnie tried living in a monastery, you'd have an episode where she ended up just living in Thailand selling feet pics rather than going home and admitting she ditched the monks once her skincare products ran out. We finish off the siblings with Lachlan, this weird little freak. Is in a love triangle with his siblings, loses his virginity to the girlfriend of a millionaire murderer while on his boat, makes a protein shake in a dirty blender. The list goes on. In addition to his more eccentric, not safe for work, porn hubby issues, he is also established to be a huge people pleaser who is often torn between loyalties. That's tough, and I would hope that, despite his family being poor now, he's able to get some decent counseling and learn to care for his own well-being more than approval from others. Also, how not to want to boink your brother. No amount of therapy is going to teach him how to clean a blender before using it, though. That's just how 18-year-old boys are. But despite it being clear that this boy could do with setting some boundaries, the truth is every group needs a Lachlan. He's the one who makes everyone feel comfortable, who finds common ground when opinions differ, who's checked into other people's journeys as much as their own. These people might not always know how to be true to themselves, but they're the ones that allow others to do so. And by the way, if you think you're the Lachlan of your group, you're probably not the Lachlan. Which is great news if you have a sibling. Next, the Ratliff brood's father, Timothy. Timothy is a businessman who apparently got rich making some pretty shady dealings. He also seems to put a lot of pressure on his children, especially his sons. Steals his wife's meds after shaming her for taking them. And it's just kind of like, rude. That being said, he clearly loves his family immensely, and that love is what literally saves him. When Timothy discovers he's probably going down for crimes of the white-collar variety, your boy's ready to blow his brains out pretty immediately. He steals a gun from Guy Talk, doesn't give it back even when Guy Talk asks really nicely. He writes a note, he's ready. But then he's horrified by the idea of his family finding him. Then he starts debating taking out his family along with him, not out of some blind rage, but because he genuinely doesn't know if they're strong enough to face the world penniless without him. He weebles and he wobbles and he doesn't murder his family. And as time runs out, he finally realizes what a horrible thing it would be for any of his loved ones to lose their life when Lachlan almost dies because he never taught him how to wash a dish. I personally thought the story might end with all the Ratliffs joining the meditation center to escape American law. All these monks having to put up with a clan of chaotic, occasionally incestuous, insufferable white folk. That is a real test of inner strength. But Timothy learning how he really does value his family more than money after almost poisoning them with pina coladas is fine too. Now for our queen, Parker Posey, whose character does have a name. It's Victoria. So Parker Posey is a rich, judgmental, prescription-reliant housewife who kind of strives for ignorance and yet is incredibly insightful despite herself. While Piper is mocked by Saxon and eventually applauded by her father for being concerned more with spirituality than physical attachment, her mother susses out that deep down, she is no different from the rest of her family. What's more, she's able to communicate to Piper that this doesn't make her a bad person, just a product of her environment that needs to play the hands she's dealt. She's also one of the only people that calls out all the bullshit of these ugly rich men having beautiful young girlfriends from Thailand or elsewhere. Sorry, Taiwan. She may be classist, but she also recognizes that money alone doesn't buy you values. She does judge people at the end of the day based on their behavior. And finally, she's able to be insightful about herself, recognizing that she is not strong enough to have an uncomfortable life. This is probably where Saxon gets his self-awareness that makes him redeemable despite being all that. Now let's talk about Rick. Rick is a man of his word. You can trust what this guy says. Unless, of course, he's telling you that he's friends with a major Hollywood director so that he can come to your house and beat up your husband. But that's just a mistake we're all destined to make at some point. A less classy guy would just lie to his hot young girlfriend about being driven entirely by rage and revenge, put on a happy face to appease her, then leave her in the dust when the time comes to knock over a senior citizen. Instead, when he doesn't want to tell her something, he just says he can't tell her. And he will not lie about being happy. He's perfectly honest about being miserable, which is incredibly frustrating because we'd all like to be on a fancy vacation with Amy Lou Wood instead of doing whatever the hell else we're doing. But you can't say he's not in touch with his emotions. He finally tells her he's going to Bangkok to confront the murderer of his father, and she says, "Are you gonna kill him?" And he says, "Probably not." And we're like, sure. Then he doesn't. It's the shock of the century when he doesn't shoot this guy while his Asian girlfriend distracts his wife. Then comes the shock of the millennium when he actually goes back to his British girlfriend and enjoys the closure he claimed he would get, that everyone assumed would end up being unsatisfactory. He did exactly what he said he was going to do and nothing more. Is it his fault that this guy then aggressively insults both his parents while speaking in riddles instead of just telling him the truth about his parentage, thus forcing him to return the insult with violence? Yes, that is his fault. It was absolutely wild of him to stay at the resort and risk running into this guy again. Absolutely batshit, but not dishonest. Now let's talk about our darling Chelsea. By the way, no one asked, but I am adding Amy Lou Wood to my list of women who need to be protected at all cost. I don't care if you think she should be more thick-skinned because she's a celebrity. If I see one more person make fun of her appearance when they look like a sack of porridge with eyes drawn on, I am going to scream. In at least 2 languages. In this series where everyone has an opinion about everyone, no matter how screwed up their own lives are, Chelsea is a being completely free of judgment. Sure, she'll give her opinion on someone, but it's not a dismissal of their entire identity. It's just a healthy dose of honesty, a trait that is parallel to her cynical, balding disaster boyfriend who she loves very much. Chelsea is aware that Rick is a depressed prick. Hell, she even seeks to change him, but there is no anger or discomfort at him being the sad little man that he is. I mean, maybe a little bit of anger when he almost kills her via snakebite. Kids, don't do drugs, then go see a live reptile show. Please, just do one or the other. Chelsea doesn't judge her friend Chloe for cheating on her boyfriend or Saxon for hooking up with his brother, even though she states she'd never do either of these things. One of those things probably needed to be said more than the other, but clear communication is good. She's a little harsh on Saxon for being a douche, but it's only because she sees him as capable of more, which is both sweet and makes you question why she wasn't harsher on him for hooking up with his brother. Like, does she just view that as kind of a canon event? Okay, dang guys, I gotta get moving. Let's talk about the ladies. Jacqueline is a rich TV star that at least tries to stay relatable, and on that front, I give her a passing grade. Sure, she's duplicitous and pretentious, but she's duplicitous and pretentious with her high school gal pals instead of some fellow Hollywood B-listers that she's known for a couple months. And her midlife crisis looks pretty standard. No weird cults or health trends like celebrities are wont to do, just some good old-fashioned cheating on your distant boyfriend while on a girls' trip. SNL told me that was relatable. Kate is the Lachlan of this group, not in that she wants to sleep with both of them, that we know of, but in that she's the one that is able to find middle ground and thus keep them all united. Yes, she's a terrible gossip, but when she talks behind others' backs, it's not because she doesn't have respect for them, it's because sometimes you're able to enjoy someone's company more when you have a safe place to vent about them. When the other two talk about each other, it kind of feels like they're tearing each other down to feel better about themselves. Whereas with Kate, she's just got to say these things because it feels wild not to. If your friends don't discuss your divorce when you're not around, they do not care about you. If they'd rather talk about food or the weather than the fact that your boyfriend is several decades younger than you, you are a profoundly uninteresting person to them. While Kate is the peacekeeper, Lori is the friend that doesn't let you get away with bullshit for your own good. She's not one of these I tell it like it is people who gets off on being negative under the guise of being honest. She just recognizes that constant positivity can be toxic, especially when it relies on completely ignoring certain truths. Like that she called dibs on that Russian yoga instructor / jewel thief. This lighting is getting very sensual. I didn't put my lights up today because there was some nice natural lighting, but now the sun's kind of setting and it's getting very romantic. I feel like I'm on a date with all of you. Are we gonna get married and then you're gonna get a bunch of gay men to kill me? I can't get distracted. Gay talk. I'm not gonna lie, this little guy drove me crazy this season. He's ineffective at his job, he's constantly waffling about his own priorities, and he's the kind of simp that makes the word simp seem valid and not just something men made up to shame other men for being okay around women. But this is someone who does know right from wrong and strives to do the right thing even when it's to his own detriment, which is something that even the more likable characters on this show fall short of. Despite my misgivings about him, I was genuinely happy for him when, after a season of wondering whether his morals would allow him to become a killer, he was put in the one situation where killing someone was arguably the right thing to do. Good for you, buddy. Now you can feel good about yourself and hook up with the girl from Blackpink. Speaking of Mook, our queen of clear communication, this girl knows what she wants, and you can judge her for that being a man to take care of her, but she is also very reasonable in her expectations. She's not mean to Gay Talk. She doesn't ignore him when she thinks he's not ambitious enough to be successful. She's just clear that they could enjoy each other's company as friends, or he can step up and make something of himself, and then he can hit it. With all the subterfuge and manipulation happening at this resort, isn't there something refreshing about Mook just frowning sadly like a disappointing parent when she learns that he isn't okay with using extreme violence to get ahead? Belinda. Last we saw Belinda, she was being let down by Jennifer Coolidge, something very few of us will ever experience. But the thing about Belinda is she is not a victim. She is not bitterly wallowing in Hawaii. She has come to Thailand to further her craft and meet new people and sleep with new people. She is living her best life, even though the odds are not stacked in her favor. Until they are. Because that's when Greg/Gary shows up. By the way, I think it's pretty great he just changed his name from Greg to Gary. If I had seen him and been like, "Aren't you Greg?" and he had said, "No, I'm Gary," I would have just assumed I had the right guy, but had gotten his name wrong. I mean, I very recently spent a whole weekend calling a Matt a Mike. He had big Mike energy. But I guess our boy Greg knows that Gary is about as far as he can suspend our disbelief. Like, no one's gonna think this guy is a Massimo. He could barely pull off being a Philip. When Greg shows up, realizes Belinda is putting the pieces together about what he did to his ex-wife Tanya, and offers her a cute little sum to keep quiet, Belinda goes for it. Not without due deliberation, but in the end, she decides she's not going to stay broke and in danger for some woman that she knew for a week. Is it the most morally upstanding course of action? And does she display hypocrisy when she blows off her new boy toy the same way Tanya did to her? Sure, but She's not going to be someone who complains about her circumstances and then doesn't act when opportunity calls. Finally, Greg. Gary. Not Massimo. Our boy Greg is surprisingly sex positive. He finds out his girlfriend Chloe fooled around with our modern little Targaryens, the Ratliff brothers, and he tells her this story about how he's got a soft spot for watching his partner hook up with other people because he heard his parents bone one too many times. At first you think this must be some bizarre fabrication, potentially to get Saxon alone so he can get revenge, but no, the last shot we get of this guy is looking on fondly at Chloe as she finds some other guy to bone for his benefit. So not only is Gary truly into being cuckolded, he has done the inner work to examine where this desire comes from and dispel any shame he might have felt about it. Not bad for some guy who is currently busy evading the Italian police force. That completes our list of White Lotus Season 3's most positive character traits. I hope this can remind us that there is good even in the ickiest of people, and if not, I hope it reminds us to clean our blenders and that Amy Lou Wood is prettier than you. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and as always, have a delicious day. Papa, no!